Hey everybody, welcome to 3D6 Charge, podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k, state of the gaming community news. We are live on Twitch at 3D6 Charge. We're streaming every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, where you can follow and subscribe. We're also anywhere that you can find podcasts. This is episode 27. Chapter approved is free now. I'm your host, Corsivo, and joining me tonight are Kevin Lieb.
Howdy.
Benjamin Rubenstein.
Hello, everyone.
And Omar Q.
Hey, everyone.
So, what's the news, guys?
Warhammer news? Man, everything's in the news. New points for everyone. Wild things are happening.
There's a lot.
Chris, you and I lied to our fan base. We promised them a battle report, and we decided to only go over chapter proof instead.
Yeah, actually, so if we play back the tape, I lied to our fan base because for whatever reason, your game was posed as a question to me. And I'm sorry, guys. I was unaware that GW was going to ruin our plans for our battle report by just,
I think it was
dropping.
I think it was the very next day too, where they're just like, "Hey,
yeah.
FAQs for everybody, and also new chapter approved points. Also, it's free now."
Yeah.
Like, I'm not opposed to it though, because at least that means if they get their shit together with the app, means the app becomes worth it to some extent.
It means that they're willing to publish points changes not in a printed book, which is a win by any stretch of the imagination. But
I don't know.
do you guys? What do you guys want to talk about first? The FAQ changes or the points? Because I feel like
I think the rules changes first.
Yeah.
Okay. So the FAQ, like a bunch of factions got updated FAQs, but I think the most standouty one is the FAQ for the mission packs. So for like the GT pack, so the main one in that is that they changed how the person that goes second, how they score points in the fifth and final battle round. Because if you guys remember, if you went first and you made it to the fifth round, you scored all your points at the beginning of your command phase. Well, now there's no reason for you to stand on your objectives anymore because you've already scored those points. There's not going to be another command phase for you to score points on. So if you can get the other player off of his points or contest them before the start of his command phase, you can deny him points much easier than he can do to you. He can basically do nothing to you, like primary-wise, and then for like most secondaries as well.
I want to pat Ben on the back for, I think it was our second playtest game of, or we didn't play test, second game of 9th edition, which is like, yeah, the last turn in the round doesn't matter if you're going second.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going first, you just run on objectives. What does it matter? Killing doesn't matter.
Yep, I literally said that our second game was like, man. So if you go first, you score your points at the beginning of your fifth turn, and then you just advance each of your units onto as many objectives as possible that your opponent can get to, because shooting doesn't matter unless you think you can kill a unit that's on an objective or could hold an objective. Yeah, this change is excellent. I love it. Now it doesn't let you just like throw your units at your opponent, because if you walk off of your own objectives, well, now they're going to hold more at the end of their turn.
Yeah, actually, I didn't actually say what the change was. So do you mind explaining what the actual change is?
Yes. So the actual change is now the primary scores at the end of the last turn. So the first 4 turns of the game, everyone scores the primary at the beginning of their turn. On the 5th turn, the first player scores at the beginning of their turn, and then the second player scores at the end of the game. So basically, at the last battle, end of the battle round, which is the end of the game, which means that they actually get as many turns to impact the primary as their opponent does, which is a really wild change to how scoring works, and might actually make going second almost better now in some situations, in a lot of situations.
Right. It brings back like that ITC advantage of going second, where you knew exactly like how many things you needed to kill to get killed more.
Yeah, exactly. But it also, going first will still have its advantages, which is good. It should. But going second is no longer just like strictly worse in every way, which is awesome.
Yeah, let's keep in mind, like if you're going first, under this new rule set, like that last round, it's still in your best interest to move off all of your objectives and charge everything.
Yeah.
Right. It's the exact opposite of the a little bit different because you still have to have some guys on your objective. It's not as different from the what it was for, but it's kind of just reversed it, right? Where before it was the player who went first in the last battle round just said, "I'm just going to run you on you," and now it's actually the opposite.
Chat's asking if you're not playing on plant bowling ball, isn't going second always better? So not in 8th edition, usually. In 9th edition, because of the way scoring worked, on the last turn of the game, going second, you didn't get a last turn. Like your turn would start, you score points, and I guess you can move your models around and shoot and stuff, but like your actual none of those things give you points. Like killing your opponent's models usually didn't give you points at that point, like unless there's like one secondary you're trying to finish up. Whereas you're in your opponent's last turn, they got to take you off of your primary. Like they had options to like significantly impact the score because they kill you off an objective that's like 5 whole primary points. They're just gone. Whereas going second, like at the bottom of the last turn, just didn't do anything. So going second at the beginning of the game, yeah, going second was better at the beginning of the game. But the advantage of having the second to last turn and not the last turn was so big that going second, like we've seen numbers, going second is rough.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
statistically, going second has a like significantly lower win rate. You know, not to the point where like it was an automatic like
you
I win you lose button.
It was worse.
But you know, you were fighting an uphill battle that shouldn't have been uphill in the first place.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how this changes. I hope it doesn't make it too much in the other way. I still think there's a lot to be said in a like game that's this much centralized around the primary and that's this short. I still think there's enough to say about like just jumping on objectives really fast. Like going first will have its advantages, but I'm really happy about this change to
all it does, like all it does is it gives everyone the same amount of scoring turns.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, yeah, but it also, it makes second not be a killer. And I think now we're going to see armies change we're going to see a change in how we build our armies because you have to going second is no longer a, crap. Now you have to think when you're building your army, you have to plan around, all right, here's what I do if I go first. Here's what I do if I go second.
Chat's saying that they wouldn't buy too much disaster last year because things have been weird. This change could be too strong for turn 2, but even if we're not looking at stats, even like my own personal experiences with playing 9th edition, going second was hard. It was weaker, and it was pretty clear after a couple games that it was consistently weaker. So they need to do something. This might be too much. They may have to pull it back somehow. The original way I had wanted them to pull it back was to change the caps on points to like cap the primary for the person going first at a lower number, so you could win bigger going second. On the primary, but going first, you're basically guaranteed to cap out your primary. But like that may have been like too crazy. This works. I like what they're doing here. The other change I think that we should talk about really fast because it really is really fast is they, for whatever reason, removed the choice to go first or second. Now it's just whoever wins the die roll, which is a change. It's honestly not a change to be in most games for Warhammer.
It's a change in that it's no longer a choice that you had. I mean, granted, like the way that scoring was before, you wanted to go first anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about the situation where both players know who is correct to go first, then it doesn't really change anything because whoever was going to win would assign it. It removes the chance where someone didn't know what was the correct choice, and thus it removes that skill gap, but
yeah, that's exactly what this change does.
I don't know.
Yep. Nope. That's my thoughts exactly, Kevin.
Yeah.
The only thing this does is if one person doesn't know what the correct thing was to do, or they were going to call it incorrectly, you go from a 100% chance for a particular outcome to go back to a 50-50, which is what it is when both players know what's going on. So it's removing a small amount of skill from the game, but honestly, it's not enough to really think about it too hard. And it's probably fine. Like, I think that punishing players who are not as aware of board states is something that GW wants to move away from a little bit, which is fine. Like, this is a fine way of doing that because it doesn't actually affect higher level play very much.
I agree.
Yeah. The other change I want to talk about is how, under certain circumstances from Deep Strike, it's an 8-inch charge.
That's not a change. That's just a confirmation.
No, that was a confirmation that you should know the Pythagorean theorem if you're trying to charge something that's.
Well, I did not know the Pythagorean theorem because I don't do math for fun, or work. So
I don't do it for fun either, but I also
you do it for work.
I also went to like middle school where I learned that.
That got concussed out of me a long time ago, Chris. Middle school, no. What's that? I mean, but it's like, I think it's a big confirmation because if you're playing armies who have +1 to charge, they can put their deep strikes around. They can try and aim on folks in buildings, and that's a 7-inch charge, which is really nice.
Yeah. So to clarify, what GW wrote was that when you're deep striking, that 9 inches away thing, that's 9 inches away from the model, not like horizontally. So like if you're measuring like up, if something's on like the second floor of a ruin, then you got to measure that diagonally basically. But when you keep in mind that engagement range is also 5 inches vertically, you only got to make that horizontal distance, which equates out to like a 8-inch charge.
Yeah, the short version of it. So this isn't a change. They're just like confirming that this is working this way. If you want to screen out your opponent's deep strike as far as possible, don't do it with models on the roofs of buildings. Put them on the first floor and fix the problem.
Well, I mean, you're saying that, but like both with the games I've played with folks on tabletop and my very small bubble outside of Chris, we always assumed that it was just a full 9, no matter what. Like we were always rolling for 9. So I think like even that confirmation is going to change things. Maybe at higher level play it doesn't make a difference, but there are a lot of people playing the game competitively who were playing that wrong.
So I think what's happening here is this is an addition change where I'm pretty sure in 8th edition, because you could only be within 1 inch, it effectively was always a 9-inch charge or more.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, Jenny in the chat's also agreeing. Like, it sounds like he was also playing it the same way, where it's like, all right, it's 9 inches. So that confirmation and that clarity is really nice. Blood Angels players like me are really happy.
I'm all in for GW, like, releasing statements like this. Like, by the way, guys, this has always been a rule, but we've heard that lots of people are confused about it. Like, here it is. That's great. Like,
that's what FAQs are supposed to be. They're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's what FAQs are supposed to actually be. We call them FAQs, but really they're erratas. Like, they're just changing the rules, which is good. They should change the rules. But yeah, having actual FAQs in your FAQs, also excellent.
The other big things in that book was changing some of the secondaries, right?
Yes.
So bring it down is 1 point if it's 10 or less wounds, 2 points if it's 11 to 20 wounds, and 3 points if it's 20 plus. I might be,
No, that's it.
Which makes certain lists or certain factions able to bring more builds. Like I'm thinking GSC. It used to kind of be awkward. They had a pretty good ATV list, and it used to be just like that would give up max points because they were kind of tough for their points from an actual killings perspective, but not tough for victory points they were giving up.
Because they bring like 9, right? And that's 18 points.
Yeah, they'd bring like 9.
Yeah, but now it's 9. Okay.
Yeah. And that would be the only 9 you would bring. So we're kind of back at that same. Yeah, that you can take this, you can get 10 points, and that's pretty good. 10 points in that secondary category is pretty good for that category, but it's not ending the game for them. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that change. I think it opens up a ton of builds for vehicle lists, which were already being pretty punished by the existence of eradicators. It's just like a little bit off of them, so they can kind of go a little nuts, which is neat. Like, they should exist. They were like unfairly punished by that secondary.
Yeah, it also it diffuses a bit of the 1-2 punch against anybody taking vehicles ever in this game right now. I mean, eradicators are still horseshit, but at least you're not giving up like an easy secondary by taking any points, by taking any vehicles at all.
His Harley Fusion boat spam loves the change to bring it down. Are you saying, yeah, so I guess chat's saying, more vehicles showing up makes like Fusion spam and stuff like that better? Yeah, maybe. Because like
it makes it better. It also makes the Fusion boat spam more viable. I mean, like it already was, but now you're not giving up as many points for the secondary.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. Right, because the boats would count for that.
Yes.
Yep.
But also, more hard targets for fusion pistols is never not good.
Other secondary changes, they changed Abhor the Witch. They decrease the number of points that you get for killing Psyker units and Psyker characters. This is really great for various Chaos lists. It's also really good for Grey Knights.
It's fantastic for Thousand Suns lists.
And it's really good for Thousand Suns lists because Thousand Suns, unlike Grey Knights, are still probably giving up because Grey Knights just like spam these 5-man squads and like they are going to get. I think they only give up 1 point now, right? It's just like the squads give up 1, the characters give up 3.
No, squads give up 2.
Squads give up 2. Okay, because like Grey Knights would like just spam all these 5-man squads and you just shoot them and you walk away with 3 points a squad and it's like the freest thing ever. At 2 points a squad, you're still going to score well. You're still going to take it if you're eligible for it, but it's no longer like a free max. Thousand Suns lists love this because Thousand Suns bring blobs. They don't bring like 20 units. They bring like 2 20-man units of Rubric Marines, which are freaking unmovable, and like a couple characters, and they're going to mix that up with like other Chaos demons and stuff. And like you're going to like I think that we're going to see people like especially once the Thousand Sun book comes out. And like they're up to 2 wounds. Like people are gonna take that against Thousand Suns and like score 3 points on it and be like, "Oh man, this was a disaster." Like I killed a Rubric Marine squad.
I think there's a problem there though. To be honest, if like if that Rubric Marine squad is actually that unmovable, or like that army is actually that unmovable that you can only get 2 points against this secondary, you'd be in trouble. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I don't think this will be like for a pure Thousand Suns list. I still expect post Codex Thousand Suns to be mostly demons with like 3 characters and a Rubric Marine blob. And before that was like really dangerous because you could very easily just give up all your points between like a unit of Pink Horrors, like a Rubric Marine, and like 2 characters going down. Like, it's 15 points. And now it's just way less. So that's good. The other change that they did was Psychic Secondaries. Psychic Secondaries function in all ways like psychic powers, and all rules that apply to psychic powers apply to them, with the exception of if you try to attempt a psychic secondary, you cannot cast more powers. That's huge. That changes for a lot of factions, both offensively and defensively around it.
Yep, Tyranids got better with that.
How did Tyranids get better?
They have an aura giving off -1, so like they're better against it. They have more units that have pluses or rerolls, like Neurathropes can reroll psychic test of 1. So when you're looking for like I think it was like a 3, saying you get to needing a 3 up on 2d6, rerolling all your dice rolls of 1, it's like, okay, that's gonna happen. I can guarantee that.
Yep, I feel the same about Thousand Suns, like Zangars. Zangars can free reroll the first failed psychic power every game when you're hunting for 3s. Like before, because of the changes to like the command reroll and they weren't a psychic power, like you couldn't reroll it. You still can't because it's still not a psychic power reroll, but other rules that apply to psychic powers do. So Zangars can reroll it with their particular power. Eldar Farseers are going to be able to reroll it with their psychic power reroll. So factions that have quote unquote good psychers now have more of an incentive to take psychic secondaries. At the same time, this also lets your opponent trigger things like deny psychic powers no 4 up and stuff like that. So really like think about what your opponent's army is before you just like take a psychic secondary. Because if you like pick it into Iron Hands or something, you could just like lose 15 points to your opponent's like 3 command points, and it's a disaster.
Yep. There's one other change to the missions. It's the while we semi-fight one. It's no longer the highest models. It's you actually count the entire unit.
Yes.
I think Ganny?
That is a huge change.
Yeah. You think of any of like Death Star unit, it's like Can you get through this Death Star? Can you get through my 40 River Green wounds? I don't know.
Yeah, so that stops the abuse of I pick 3 expensive characters, you can't kill them, haha, I get 15 points. Which is probably good. It was neat for like for a lot of armies doing that were able to get away with it, but it felt too free for like certain like Marine armies that were like, I have a librarian, a captain, and like I don't know, a lieutenant in the new armor, and like every other thing is just like something in the toughness, the Gravis armor. So they're all like 50 points, which is less than my 90-point lieutenant. So these 3 characters who want to sit in the back and provide auras are going to do that, and also I score 15 points for free. Yeah, and things like that are gross, and I'm glad that's gone. Do any units jump out to you guys as like something that like you could abuse this with, or like want to use this with?
No, I was really just lamenting, like how it ruins me just hiding my expensive characters and getting a free 15 points.
You were part of the problem.
Yeah, no, he was. As someone who played
I
a lot,
will never
he was.
deny that part, but I'm still allowed to feel bad about it. Okay.
Chat was saying that they used the Custode Terminators, and they use Unleash the Lions to split them up, so their opponent had to hunt them all down. Kevin, you're a Custodes player. What do you think about that?
I think that's really good. Actually, I was thinking about that with we'll get to it with the Custodes update, but Custodes have a named character, a sister,
Valerian and Alea.
Yeah, combo that just got the Adeptus Custodes rule, so you can actually put them in an army. So like 200 points, that might be your third most expensive. Depends on how you play the Custodes. It's still probably not, because Custodes
In a
are that
Custodes
expensive.
list, 200 points? Isn't that like a troop squad?
That's like
No.
3 troops.
Yeah.
There's no way that's the third most expensive. Like,
Yeah. Oh. I was just thinking like you separate them out, and like their 2 characters are kind of unkillable again, but might be something to build to.
yeah, I could see like an Astra Militarum army like bringing a Custodes attachment and just being like, all right, it's like it's my 3 Custodes characters or something silly, like those 2 guys. And
The Harlequin and the sister battle.
they're only
they're
125 points.
You're so right.
Yeah, they're like really cheap.
And it's over.
Aren't they more? I thought they were more than that.
They're really cheap. They don't do very much, like, but they like have like a bunch of strength 3 weapons. They'd be a little more expensive, but I don't think it's much.
I think they have like a special rule that's cool, but
No, we're talking about specifically using them to
For
like
Rob's
abuse
stance.
this rule,
yeah.
because like you'd have to kill both of them to kill the whole unit. So you have to hunt down 2 characters to stop your opponent from scoring 5 points, and both those characters are very mobile and have invulnerable saves.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's definitely like some Imperium army where they like take an obnoxious attachment that just has like random paired characters in it. That's just like, haha, you have to kill 6 characters to stop me from, or 4 or 5 characters to stop me from like scoring some number of points, and everything else is an Astra Militarum. There's some army in there. Might see it post Astra Militarum Codex. Hard to say.
There's some abuses. As with every rule, there's an abuse.
But it's much harder to do than it used to be, which is just like bring
Like,
3 space green aura buffers. Lol, I win.
Finding the abuse is what interests me.
Oh, that's fair. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I think like the Alaris Terminator Unleash the Lions one is going to be pretty brutal.
Yep, the Alaris one will be good.
Sir Hector? Ooh.
Oh, that's so good!
Wait, what is Sir Hector?
That's the Imperialist!
For those of us who don't know, who is Sir Hector?
Explain this.
Sir Hector Rex is a named knight, and when you kill the knight, the pilot jumps out of the knight.
Yeah,
and
the
like
Canis
a
Rex.
20-point crapper with a little pistol, who then runs and hides behind a building, and you're like, man, you didn't kill my 450-point knight. 5 points!
It's insane.
Alright. We've built the list. It's like Hector Rex, the Custodes pair, bunch of Astra Militarum crapper. You start with like 4 command points and 30 victory points. It's great.
Starting with 30 victory points is pretty great, though.
Pretty good.
I take it. I would take it over a lot of things.
All right, we should probably move on.
We should probably playtest that.
That's actually fair. We should.
So, were there any other changes to secondaries that we can try to abuse?
I mean, yeah, you don't have to abuse them. You can also just like be aware of them. I don't think so. Were they?
No, I think those are like the big ones.
Shall we move on to points then?
Yeah, let's talk about points. So yeah, like I mentioned, everybody got points changes in a PDF, which is very much unlike GW to do. I'm not complaining. I think that they should have gone this route a long time ago. But yeah, this is around the time of year where they normally drop chapter approved, and instead they dropped what is now like the Munitorm Field Manual or whatever it's called. They just dropped it as a free PDF, and didn't put it out to print. And what this is interesting to me because if you think about their normal print cycle, like if they were trying to print things to have it out to print for like say like June when the last chapter approved got published, they would have already like they'd be finishing up writing it like right now and then sending it to the printers and over in China and getting it printed, and they'd all be done printing like in like late April. So them releasing this PDF now suggests to me that they're not doing that anymore because they'd be taking what's in the PDF right now and publishing that and selling it, which I'm not putting past GW to try to do, but it doesn't make that much sense for them to do it.
So, if this were any year other than COVID, I think we could draw a lot of conclusions from this. We just don't know if it's like due to COVID-19 they just couldn't get them printed, or they decided that we could give it for free as like a thank you. Like we don't. It's hard to tell. I think you're right that we might be expecting a PDF version from here on out. I still expect there to be a chapter approved book that has new missions.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I'm somewhat hoping in a way it's like there's a PDF that comes out in the winter and a book that comes out in the summer, and maybe even the book might have some points changes into it. Or when that book comes out, we do another PDF, so we can get like 2 updates a year.
If they go the route of Age of Sigmar, which they've been doing with 40K, and they start releasing a General's Handbook, which is Sigmar's equivalent of chapter approved, but it's more in depth than what we get. Chapter approved for us is some new missions and some new roleplay stuff. Sigmar has these stratagems that they're the stratagems that everyone has access to, but they're a little more in depth. They're a little more interesting, and I think the General's Handbook has a lot more missions in it. So I could see them doing that, and I wouldn't be opposed to a new, like, more ways to play the game as a book, and the PDF being points.
So, General's Handbook has 12 missions in it, and our last chapter approved had 9. So those numbers are pretty close.
They're close.
I hope that this is a permanent thing. I think it's way more elegant to release points for your game within a couple of weeks of getting your data rather than months later after you've released multiple new rules. Shocker. We've had this conversation a lot. I think we're all pretty on board with this being the right way to do it, and we'll see if they keep going with this way.
Yeah, I guess the concern would be like if you don't make the book linked to something people want, how are you selling the book? I guess the book itself, like just having the missions available is like something people want. So
look,
at the same time,
for missions.
I think GW has GW's stock is like higher than it's ever been, and like it's not a coincidence that also the game's better than it's ever been. I think they've probably realized that, like, man, perhaps like taking a hit in like this one direct book sales to make the game a much better thing might just be like excellent for their actual bottom line. Like not selling this one book, whatever. If this makes the game excellent and they get 3% more players, like, all right, well, they've made money.
And like, frankly, I won't buy chapter approved. I'll buy a model instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. It's not like we're not going to give GW money. It's just going to be a different avenue in which we give them money.
Yeah, like,
shall we dive into the points changes?
Please.
I want to
I'm
start
really
Space
excited.
Marines.
All right,
but-
let's do it.
All right, so Space Marine point changes. We have Eradicators up by 5 points. Outriders up by 5 points. Inceptors up by 5 points. And is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Servitors up by half a point. Got him.
That one's weird.
Let's start off with Eradicators up by 5 points. What do we think?
Not enough.
Not
Not enough.
It's in the right direction. It's not enough.
It might be.
so this
I'm not as high on them as I've complained about them a lot because they're hyper efficient at something that Space Marines are not great at. But like, I think at 50 points we're no longer at like, oh, you just put 9 Eradicators in list and it's dumb. Like, I think that it might be pretty close to the right number.
So the one thing I will say when we have to look at the Eradicator nerf, we have to acknowledge it. Like, I wish I'd done a little bit more double checking. I don't think anything went down in Space Marines.
Correct.
Certain things went up, and things went down in most other factions.
Mm-hmm.
So on the whole, things got better for on the whole, things got like the balance scale was closer. Do I think it's perfect? No. Are we closer? Yes.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is that Eradicators are insane shooting at other Space Marines, and now that we're getting some non-Space Marine 9th edition codexes that are coming out, like, Eradicators are really sad in the Space Marines and the Necron matchup. Like, they just don't do anything.
Yeah.
And as, like, more of these, like...
Anything that's, like, not, like, multi-wound, like, more than, like, 2 damage.
Anything with an invulnerable save?
Yeah, or anything with an invulnerable save, like, Eradicators kind of start falling flat. Like, Eradicators fucking awesome at vehicles, Space Marines, Gravis armor, even Terminators. Once you start shooting at things where you really want like a bolter instead something with like a 4-up invulnerable, you're gonna really start hurting for a lack of dice.
Yep. I think that. Yeah, I think that this is a reasonable change. All right, let's talk about Outriders up 5 points. How do we feel about that?
Also reasonable. They're like 5 points feels right. Any more would feel like too much, but I'll take 5 points. They're a really good unit. They do a lot. They shoot a lot. They're incredibly mobile, and they can on the charge. They throw out a lot of attacks.
I don't know if this was necessary. What do you think?
I'm with you, Kevin.
I haven't seen Outriders perform exceptional in the way that Outriders perform like Eradicators have or Inceptors have. I kind of wish I knew if they were like, we've seen Outriders in too many lists, thus we've decided to bring them down in too many winning lists, thus we decided to bring them down.
Outriders though?
Everybody's
just bringing the Firstborn bikes because they're more points efficient.
Yeah, unlike Eradicators, Outriders just have other things that do their job more efficiently. Like if your army already gives you great mobility, you bring guys on foot to murder stuff. If you are particularly good at killing stuff, you bring things like Deep Strike or the First Marine bikes because they're killing enough for cheaper.
Yeah. It makes I'm kind of sad as a Death Watch player because it definitely made a unique kill team a lot worse. It's 25 points more for like the big Outrider squad is still probably worth doing just because like having one of like an OPSEC super fast unit is like still pretty good.
Yeah,
but it's kind of
that's what this change feels like to me. It's like, man, any list I was like, I want to bring 20 Outriders or whatever. Like, you bring a unit, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Inceptor's up 5 points.
I feel like they should have made the points change to the plasma gun and not the base model because this is a nerf to the bolter Inceptor, which I thought was in an okay spot. It wasn't super amazing. It wasn't like terrible. If you brought bolter Inceptors, I'd ask why not bring plasma Inceptors, but it's not game breaking. It's not game ending.
Yep.
It also doesn't solve the problem there, right? Because it's like when you compare the two guns, it's like now you're always going to do plasma. Like,
yeah, you're never not doing plasma now.
Yeah,
right.
The bolter Inceptors are just like hilariously unplayable. Like, they weren't good before, now they're just like hilariously bad. The plasma is still really good. I actually still think that unit is just like excellent. You're still just playing one or two, like probably max out units of that thing. It's so efficient.
Yeah.
It definitely need to go up. 5 might be enough. Might need to be a little bit more. I'm glad that GW is hitting that.
Yeah, and
Let's hope
I'm
the
glad
next time.
my 6 Inceptors just came in.
Yeah.
Um,
You're still going to build them and play them. They're still great.
Yeah.
This wasn't like they're unplayable now nerf. It was just like unnerf. And then server was up half a point. I guess they were a little too efficient at doing secondaries.
It's not even that they were too efficient at
whatever.
doing their secondaries. I think they just did the half point thing to make it fit into GW's like pointing conventions where they wanted everything to end in like a 5 or a 0. Which, I mean, like it already did, but like, I don't know, there was no need for it. It doesn't do anything.
I have a question. Do you think GW actually wants servitors to be on the battlefield?
Probably not.
No, because those
It's like-
models are super old and horrific looking.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this isn't like a. They could have nerfed them by like they're all up 5 points a model, and then we wouldn't be taking them. It wasn't that nerf, but
Because I mean, like, how
Yeah,
much was a servitor
that's-
squad before? 30 points.
Yeah, but that's not what they were. By the way, though, it's not what like the whole ending 5 or 0 though, because like they made guardsmen cost 5.5 points in this same document. Like
That's true.
they're perfectly fine with factional model costs. They just like I don't know. I think we're also thinking like way too hard about a point change that is like actually the smallest it could possibly have been, given that they've drawn 0.5 as like the increment they're willing to move at. Like whatever, it's 2 points more for the whole squad or something like that.
I think what it ends up being is a stealth buff to company veterans, where you could take 2 company veterans for 20 points apiece, so 40 points, and they perform like the exact same role that servitors do, except maybe a bit better. Actually, no, definitely a bit better. So for like like your guys that are deploying scramblers.
yeah. And once again, I think GW would rather company veterans on the battlefield than servitors,
They definitely
Yeah.
would, because I just
which is
bought
not a good justification. But I think
just bought Mark IV Marines to spruce up as company veterans because I didn't want to fucking use servitors and they're busted ass models.
All right, let's try and hit some other factions. Any of you guys have a faction you want to talk about?
Custodes.
Sure.
Same.
What happened? Because I actually I looked
Okay.
at the document a bunch, but I'm not 100% sure what even happened
So,
there. What's going on?
The bikes went down by a flat 10 models per point. 10 points per model.
Yeah.
10
What?
models per
From-
point, hot damn.
10.
Could you imagine?
they went from 95 to 85.
Which is
That's
just dumb.
really good.
That's insane. The base cost for the Shield Captain and Shield Captain Alaris is +5, but the weapon costs have gone down, so it's a net change of 0.
Before we get away from the bikes, what's the max size of a unit of Virtus Praetors?
6?
6.
Oh, 9.
So taking a max squad, that's 90 more points you have to play with now.
I'm
Yep.
looking for my Custode
Craziness.
Codex. I
That
need
is
a
crazy.
6 or
That
9, who
buys you
knows?
like 2 custodians.
That's a lot, but I mean, also they're just so much. The fact that they're cheaper is just, yeah. I don't know who was thinking what, but I'm not going to complain or question it. Forge World didn't have any changes.
Yep. It took me a while to confirm that because I'm like, is Battlescribe actually already up to date, or
Were there any other ones? Or was it just 10 points on the bikes and 5 on the captains?
10
No,
points
no.
on the bikes. Oh,
so? Big changes on troops. Spear troops went down 4 points. They're now 45 points per model,
ooh,
and
okay,
sword
Ooh.
and board went down 4 points to 52 points a model.
okay.
All right. So the base troop cost went down by 4. Functionally.
Functionally,
Okay. Sure.
in hindsight, that's exactly what they did. It took me a little bit of math to figure out that's what they did, though. What else? Terminators went up slightly. Wardens went up slightly. Nothing. Big change, Vexlas. And we're not sure about Vexlas. This could be a typo. A classic GW typo. So their spear went down 2 points, but their banners don't have point costs anymore, where they used to be 20 to 30 points. So,
Banner?
yeah. So, like,
Uh,
you have to have 3 different options. 2 of them were 20 points, 1 of them was 30 points.
Mhm.
and they're not listed.
They're all free. Oh
Which
no.
means they're free.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression of the Custodes Codex has always been that it has kind of rough internal balance. There's just like the Terminators are great, the troops are bad, and like this is kind of an attempt to fix that, bring troops down, push Terminators up.
The change to the troops are now cheap. Like actually, like
50 points a model, cheap, ladies and gentlemen.
45 points a model. They used to be 52. They used to be 52 in 8th edition.
Fair.
Sorry. I think it's like just making it so like if you actually want to take a bunch of like cheap and like a spammy custodes list is kind of a thing you can think about. And the swords and boards are kind of like a unique effect now, where the troops actually have like they're one of the only places you can get storm shields, and there are 3-up invuln and save storm shield in the game, which is really rare. So they're unique again.
Yeah, that's really excellent. All right, any other factions we want to talk about?
Chaos, Chris.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about Death Guard because we got points for the new codex, but like we didn't get the rules, so that can mean anything.
That's
but I think there's some.
Can we hit the troop points?
I'm excited for 21 points.
Yes, we can talk about that. That's Death Guard. Yeah, it's Plague Marines are 21 points,
which is kind of insane because I'm still expecting there to be some kind of damage increase somewhere in their book, and that makes them like
makes really good.
Makes really good.
Yeah,
Poxwalkers are 5 points too.
Oh, actually, a big change. A big change too is they're no longer legion size. Their units are now 5 to 10. We're not going to see 20-man squads of cult marines anymore. Which is
and hiss.
It's for balance reasons. Like I can't even imagine being a GW like balance team member and just being like, my goodness, how many points do I make a Rubric Marine so it's both playable in a 5-man squad and a 20-man squad? Because like, could you even imagine a 1,000 Suns squad with like 22 Rubric Marines just like dumping buffs in them? Or the same thing for Death Guard. Like, yeah, they have to go down to 10 mans. It's just too many points in one squad in a faction that can stack psychic powers onto a unit.
Chris, I'll say it this way: do you want them to be 21? Do you want them to be 21 points or 24 points, but you can bring them to 20?
Yeah, they'd have to be like 24, 25 points, which would...
Yeah, no, I'll settle for 21 because I'm still going to stick 10 of them in a drill.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about models we do know the rules for.
Oh, actually,
actual chaos models. Oh, sorry.
There's one custode thing I actually want to hit on. So as we were saying, the name character combo, it now actually has the Adeptus Custodes rule. The big thing that we're getting there is we're getting a Sister Silence model that is a character. Now, there are actually some okay Sister Silence stratagems, but you used to not be able to really use them because like they were 5-man squads that cost 70 points that were T3.
They just get picked off, right?
Yeah, and now it's a character, and so now you can get access to all those stratagems through a character with character protection. I still don't think the unit's really points efficient. It's okay, but if you're like, I need something to beat Rubric Marines or I needed something to beat a Psychic Army, I think it's a reasonable pick.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Psychic Armies, want to talk about Chaos?
Can we talk about Mortarion for a little bit?
I feel like that could just happen in our Death Card episode, right? Like, because we could do that forever.
I know,
talking about points.
I really just want to talk about how fucking ridiculous it is that he can have 4 Warlord traits.
We could talk about it for 3 hours, but I think we get more out of it by waiting until we know what they are.
We already know what they are.
Yeah, but we don't know if they've changed the rules on them.
Like they could be totally different.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, so Chaos. Kevin, you wanna hit us with it?
Bile went up 5 points. Boo! Hiss. That is my review.
Oh, okay.
No. Chaos. So Chaos Terminators were the most point efficient thing in their book and have gotten even more points efficient. So like I'm actually like thinking like I'm building this Chaos Space Marine army. And it's like, do I actually start with like 30 Chaos Space Marine Terminators? That's like
Yes.
Is that what my army is? And that
Yeah,
might be a
uh-huh.
yes.
Yes, it is.
That might be a
and
yes.
You know what? It's fluffy for you to do so.
So the actual change to Terminators is the base model is now 28 points, and power weapons and lightning claws are free.
Yes.
So it's just 28 points for Chaos Terminator with 2 lightning claws. That's 5 attacks on the charge at 4-2-1, rerolling everything plus whatever your Legion is doing for you, which could be various effects.
And keep in mind, before this, double clawed Terminators were already really good for Chaos.
Yeah, they were already great, but they were like 35 points, or 33. They're like 5 points cheaper now. And they were already the best. It's insane. They're so efficient.
But then the question becomes, how are you going to get so many lightning claws? Because the kit only comes with 2?
Correct.
You get third-party bits.
Cataphractii
I've already
Terminators
figured
come
all
with a
of this
bunch.
out.
Kit Bastion from Cataphracties, they come with a bunch.
Yep. I got. Let's see. Oh wait, no, I used all of my Vanguard Veteran Lightning Claws.
Be a precognitive genius. Go to Nova, find a bag of Lightning Claw Terminators for like $4 because they're damaged. Pick them up.
I
Wait
was
a year.
this close to
Get Lightning Claws would be
scoring
great.
5 metal Chaos Terminators with Lightning Claws for like
Yeah, well,
$35.
you made a mistake.
And somebody
They're great.
outbid me at the last minute.
Other changes. There are other changes in Chaos that are less exciting. Points decreases, but not points decreases on an already very good model. So Raptors went down to 15 points. It's not enough, but it's something.
So in my I could see bringing a unit of them in my Creations of Bile list now, where I couldn't before, because being able to run and charge with them and get the +1 strength, it's like
That's very fair, actually. You're right.
because they're 1 more point than a Chaos Space Marine unit. Obviously, Chaos Space Marines aren't good at 14 points, but like, let's be honest, we used to spend like 5 points for jump packs on assault. So it's like, okay, 1 more point, probably closer to 2 more points because the unit should probably be 13. Okay, I can do this, and I kind of like what's going on with it. So that's nice.
Yep, that's very fair. Warp Towns, which were 27 points a model, which was just like a joke, went down to 23, which is still really bad, but like I guess it's not 27.
Is it
I think that's
playable?
it.
No, not when you have Raptors and Terminators with free weapons.
Yeah.
There's a couple of silly like typos
Warp
on weapons that aren't worth really talking about because they're just going to get fixed. GW can't keep track between the difference between a Reaper chain cannon and a Reaper autocannon. They'll fix it. It's swapped in a couple places. Whatever.
Yeah, with the Warp Talons, I'm actually thinking about it. It might be correct to do the Warp Talon as the unit because, like, being able to run and charge and warp time that unit, they can kind of just like, they might be able to just delete something that's important from the opponent's army because that is enough attacks.
If you want to spend 130 points for 5 guys, be my guest.
This isn't Custodies, Kevin.
I mean, like, it's
But they look
2
good.
wounds now, but it's still.
They're not 2 wounds yet.
Yeah, right now it's a no. Right now, Chaos as a whole is a no-go. But
yeah, chat's asking if Dark Angels are the only faction to have new units show up. I believe so. Death Guard had some new pieces of war gear show up, but I think Death Guard.
What showed up for Dark Angels?
Dark. It's like the Master of something. They have a new Master unit. Who knows what it does? This does tell. I don't know if we have an exact date for the Dark Angels Codex, but it's soon. Is basically.
Well, I mean, the regimental standard was Dark Angels, like fighting alongside the Dark Angels, which dropped today. Like,
like Dark Angels are probably next. But yeah, Dark Angels got a new unit, and Death Guard got a new piece of war gear. We don't know what any of this stuff does, so we'll talk about it when those
Is it
come out.
another like adjective noun verber, but with like disgusting and bile and plague?
No, it's like spheres. I think it's like bells for the Terminators. They can carry bells. I don't know what to do, but you know, neat. Want to talk about Chaos Demons?
For it.
Where sad things happened. Nurglings went up 4 points. They're now 22 points a model.
Still worth it.
And they got a pretty big rules. They actually got errataed, right?
It's a clarification. They clarified that mortal wounds. They don't get to take feel no pains against mortal wounds from psychic powers because they can only take feel no pains against 1 damage weapons. This has always been a rule. I'm probably guilty of getting this rule wrong. A lot of people thought, honestly, including myself, I had to like double check the rule, that the rule was they don't get feel no pains against multi-damage weapons. But the rule is actually they only get feel no pains against 1 damage weapons. And they just confirmed that, like, oh yeah, by the way, this means no psychic power feel no pains.
I'm guilty of that.
Yep, like I 100% got this wrong. Yeah, it's up 4 points is rough. We're still playing them because it's like the last playable true choice in Chaos until we get like a new codex out of a Chaos faction. In exciting changes, Blood Crushers and the flies, the pox walkers riding the flies, whose names I can never remember, both went down 5 points. Making them both very efficient. Blood Crushers, if you haven't like looked at that stat line in a while, are like ridiculously efficient in melee combat, and they actually have all of the tricks that Blood Letters have, the Khorne troop unit, for charging out of Deep Strike. Like they can roll 3d6 plus 1 rerolling out of Deep Strike. Like they're just in here. Because they have the same Blood Banner upgrade that Blood Letters have. And every guy has a Blood Letter. They have the same number of attacks as Blood Letters, but then their mounts also make strength 8 attacks. Like I think it's like 4 attacks a mount or something silly like that. They're actually kind of tough. They got I think it's like 3 or 4 wounds a model. And they completely just blend through everything they touch. And they have a neat stratagem because they have a crushing impact thing on their charge too. So they mortal wound you just by like contacting your unit. And they're Khorne demons, so they can double fight. They do a lot.
Is it the kind of crushing attack where is it on a roll of a 6 or is it beating toughness?
No, it's like a 2-up. It's a 2-up on a mortal wound. Yeah. And if you screen them out with a unit that's like not particularly large, and they kill the whole unit, they can immediately charge again.
Wow.
Which double triggers their charging effect for being a Khorne demon. So they all go up to strength 9 and gain an extra attack. So whatever you do, never let a unit of Blood Crushers charge like 4 models. You'll lose your whole army. It's a complete disaster.
Look up these guys because that looks wow.
Yeah. On the more tanky side, the flies now have the same point cost as a Beast of Nurgle. They have 1 less wound, but they're trading that for like 4 extra inches of movement, the fly keyword, several more attacks in melee, and a ranged attack. Which I think is enough to really look at them as like the thing that Nurgle players are going to be using to just like clog the board with heinous numbers of toughness 5 wounds.
Do they come in bigger unit sizes, or are they 3 max also?
Both of those units are go up to 9.
Oh, Beast of Nurgle go up to 9? Weird.
Yeah, Beast of Nurgle go up to 9. You just don't see it very often because they're leadership 7. So you'd like need to bring a greater demon or something to protect their leadership.
Well, I thought the thing with that unit was you were always bringing a greater demon to belt them back into existence.
Yeah, you have the option. So yeah, that's like kind of neat things for demons. I think that faction none of their some of their toughness things, like the things they're using to clog the board, got touched. None of the greater demons got touched. Faction will still see play. Nurglings are a little sad, but I think that between Blood Crushers and the Plague Flies, we'll see a fine replacement. If not, just people saying screw it, eating the points changes and just continuing to play a bunch of Nurglings.
What about Tau?
Yeah, I don't know what GW was thinking when they wrote the Tau change. Tau are pretty solidly the lowest win rate army in the game right now. They have it's like 4. I haven't looked at the numbers recently because they make me sad. It's like 40% or something silly, which is why GW nerfed shield drones and commanders. Every commander variant went up 5 points. The units of drones now cost 20 points a model if you take them as just its own unit. You can still attach drones to units for the same cost as before, which was frankly too high at 15 points for a shield drone. Good, but you now have to bring them that way. You can't bring them in big blobs of drones, which is honestly just makes army building a little bit of a pain, but doesn't really nerf them at all because drones were already so expensive you couldn't fill up all of your slots on your other units anyway. Like, you nerfed your nerf by making your nerf too bad, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea what GW is doing here. That being said, there are
making
bugs.
Tau pay for their sins of 5th edition.
There's I didn't get to play 5th edition though, so I'm just paying for it, I guess. There are buffs here. Crisis suits went down 5 points a model. They were starting to see play in 8th edition, and then the points, so the rules changes of 9th edition hit them ridiculously hard. So that was really rough. They're a little bit cheaper now. I don't think they're cheaper enough, but that's something. Hammerheads came down like 15 points. Whatever, the unit was unplayable because it doesn't do any damage and just dies when anything looks at it funny, and it still has all those problems. But I guess for 15 points less now. The transport came down like 10 points. It has all the issues of the Hammerhead without somehow being significantly cheaper than it, and also doesn't have weapons. Yeah. But our one shining hope in the darkness, broadsides came down 20 points, so they're back on the menu, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to just roll so many saves.
9 broadsides is the last remaining Tau list that has any hope of possibly functioning. I don't think it's like good, but like, man, it's something. Fine. It's fine. Coming down 20 points a model is like pretty sweet. Railguns came down 20, missile pods came down 15. Railguns are actually like looking pretty good into the current meta. The relic rail, like at least one unit with the relic railgun is like actually kind of terrifying. It's 6 shots at 9 neg4 d6 minimum 3. With I think 5s and 6s do mortal wounds. Yeah, like they're fine. It's that being said though, like if I was you, like I couldn't excuse any nerf to Tau. Like there's very few factions that ate nerfs that were not in like the top like 20% of performers right now, and then like Tau at the actual bottom. Just like let's nerf commanders and drones because I don't know. So it's disappointing, but I'm trying to like keep my hopes up. The broadside change is like fun because broadsides are like my personal favorite unit. So like I don't know if GW wants to keep randomly nerfing commanders and buffing broadsides like every time, like that's fine. It's fine. Just keep doing it. GW broadsides are great. Yeah, I don't know. The one kind of neat thing going on right now is like with all the changes to secondaries, broadsides give up nothing because they have no keywords. They're not vehicles. They're not monsters. They're just like a thing that you put on the table that has stats. So they give up no secondaries, which is neat. I guess. They're definitely and actually broadsides are the unit that we can use to abuse the new while we stand we fight. Because it's a Tau unit, you have to shoot through a gajillion shield drones.
Well, not shield drones, right? They're too expensive.
Well, yeah, sure.
I thought the gun drones.
And if you table me, I'm going to lose anyway. So like, whatever. If I don't get to score it when you table me, but they're the last thing that goes down.
Chris,
but the joke is that you're tabling me most of the time. So, ever, man. I'm honestly not planning on playing Tau until GW figures out what the plan is with them. There are also some rules changes for Tau too. Shao Sun came down 20 points, which is really great because she also picked up the Supreme Commander keyword. So Tau actually have a Supreme Commander now.
Is this the first Supreme Commander that isn't a Primarch?
Yeah. Well, the Primarchs aren't Supreme Commanders.
Oh, right.
Primarchs
They can just
yeah.
do their own thing.
Yeah, the only Supreme Commander up until this point was the Silent King. And then they're just like, all right, Shao Sun can have it too, I guess. Farsight also is a Supreme Commander now, which is, both of that's neat. So you can just like get an extra commander out. Her going down 20 points is like makes the new model actually like somewhat playable. So it's not all doom and gloom for Tau, but the faction is still nowhere near playable in like any sort of competitive format. Which stinks, but we'll see where it goes. That's it. That's all I got to say about Tau. The Arvana is great from Forge World. Maybe something with Arvanas and broadsides. Actually, no. I do have one question. When do you pick while we stand we fight? Like when does that trigger? It's the beginning of the game? Is it before deployment?
I think you marked them on your sheet when you pick your secondaries. I will.
Okay, so if that's the case, broadsides are actually completely miserable to kill because they have attached drones, and the drones can just go hide in the building, and you can never kill the unit.
It doesn't count drones explicitly in the secondary.
Of course, because it's Tau, and they wanted to nerf it. All right, cool.
Yep, excluding drone units. Yep.
Awesome. I'm glad that GW just like really doesn't want Tau to be playable.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe your
I don't
codex
know.
will be good.
I suspect that the Tau Codex is going to be like as functional as the other 9th edition codexes. It's just really disappointing to see the 8th edition codex like completely ignored whenever they do a rule. Actually, it's not even ignored. Like if they ignored it, it would have remained unplayable, but they didn't. They specifically nerfed it. It's like
They went out of
why?
their way for it.
like you could have also just not looked at it. It would have remained unplayable. Like I don't get it. GW maybe they're just like really like, man, Tau's an unfun experience. So like we're just gonna make Tau unplayable until we can rework the codex, which is like kind of miserable for players who only own Tau armies. I'm fortunately like I own other armies, but like I have friends who only play Tau and like they're just not playing the game right now because literally losing every game you play is fun. Yeah, and like COVID, sure, but like man.
Well, this might be GW's way of having them diversify armies, if you will.
Right. Fair enough. There are any other
Tyranids.
sorry, what was that? Tyranids, yeah. Tyranids are sweet. Kevin, hit us with it.
So big changes that I like. Warriors went down 4 points. This makes them 17 points base, but kind of closer to like 22 points, which is their 3 wounds at 2-4. They're pretty good. They don't have a good armor save, but they have enough wounds to kind of actually be resilient now. And they have some good stratagems to make themselves resilient. So big up on Warriors. Hive Guard, down 5 points a model, which is good because at 50 points, what they were previously, they were kind of hard to fit more than one unit into the army, and they used to be one of the best things in the army. So thumbs up there. Sad news, Zoanthropes, the Psychic Brains, up 5 points a model. I don't know if Tyranids needed this. There was talk early in 9th edition of Zoanthropes kind of being one of the best things because you kind of use them to screen out and hold things and kind of make them unkillable. So I think they're kind of eating the shield drone nerf where they're more annoying than they should be and are kind of getting punished for that. Units that I'm excited that haven't been good since I started playing. The Terrain effects went down 20 points. That's pretty big. I think it already had gone down since the last chapter approved too. So we might finally be getting to the point where it's like actually a reasonable model. It's funny. I remember, brief aside, my first game ever playing at Terrain effects, I was playing against my friend who was playing AdMech, and I was just like, "This is the Tyranid anti-tank gun."
Oh no!
Goes first, fires at the Dune Crawler, misses twice, 2 invulnerable saves, no damage out. Dune Crawler looks back, 3 hits on the neutron laser. 3 shots on the neutron laser, 3 hits, dead. I'm just like,
where's your invulnerable save, Kevin? Like just make the invulnerable save.
yeah. So there's that. There's a lot of other points down. So actually, between the Forge World stuff and these points changes, Tyranids are like, and I as I was saying in the last podcast, Tyranids have some pretty good stratagems that were underutilized in 8th edition because they just weren't needed in 8th edition. I'm liking where Tyranids are going. I still don't think they're like the tippity top, but I think there's stuff to work with here.
You and I got into an argument at last cast. We were talking about whether or not Tyranids could be considered like top tier, and I was just like, absolutely not. But man, with this, like, you could convince me now. I was like I was on board for like Tyranids are like in a reasonable place, but like this is a lot. They got a lot of points off in a lot of great places, and like some like must plays, like Hive Guard went down. That's really good for them because they were always going to bring Hive Guard. So any points decreases to Hive Guard is just like points they get to bring to every game.
Absolutely.
I feel like we're missing
that's all
faction.
I mean, we haven't talked about Eldar.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Eldar though.
I care about Eldar. People in chat care about Eldar. Hello? All right, we're going to start off with Yunari because it's easy. Nothing changed. Heart Harlequins somehow dodged nerfs. By some like grace of GW, they looked at one of the highest winning factions, like easily competing with Space Marines, usually beating them, and just went, "This is fine. They have one unplayable model. It's their heavy support. Make it 10 points cheaper." Thus ends the Harlequin FAQ.
To be fair, there's only like 8 data sheets in that whole army.
Right, but like those 8 data sheets, well, 7 of those data sheets are really good, and the 8th one got points decrease. Their silly tank that nobody plays is a little bit cheaper. It will still probably not see play because its firepower is whatever, and they have nothing to buff it because they're all about murdering things in melee. But yeah, they got no nerfs, which is like more than I think any of the other top armies can say. Like demons, right? Demons, Harlequins, and Space Marines were the armies we were all kind of in agreement are like the best right now. And demons and Space Marines 8 nerfs, and Harlequins just kind of walked away with it.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Let's see. We covered Eldar. Were there any big Drukhari changes?
Yep. Nah, not big ones, but like GW toned down their insanity a little bit and gave Coblate Warriors, I think, like 1 point back. They're still unplayable, but
I thought didn't Drukhari get like their Codex points?
Oh, did they? Oh, I bet you they did.
I mean, their dex is like out like right after Death Guard.
Oh yeah, you're so right. I bet you they got their Codex points.
Yeah.
Which makes it unanalyzable because who knows?
Because who knows if it's actually any good or not.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten spoilers. We can't even like talk about like how we talked about Plague Marines.
Yeah, like so who knows? Like those are the things that their things will cost. Are they good? Maybe. Craft World Eldar. I know for a fact we have Craft World Eldar players in chat who are like actually having conniption fits right now. Their troops went down. Their troops were never good. Their troops were never the thing they really cared about. But you have to bring troops to play the game, so that is like something between like 10 and 30 points you get to play with every game. It's not nothing. It's not a bunch. It's fine.
It's something.
GSC. Goliath Rock Grinders went down a bit. Pretty good. Brood Brothers, which are the Ashmole Term equivalents, went up a point.
We lost the recording bot.
Which are 6 points apiece. So they're now equal to Neophyte hybrids. I always get the names mixed up. There are now 2 troop choices that are 6 points model, and one of them has cult keywords and one of them doesn't. And so I don't even know. It's kind of, I don't know why you would take the other one at this point. I think they did that because they didn't want GSC to have cheaper troops than Asher Militarum.
The Asher Militarum ones are better.
Right. But I don't think. But as opposed to Asher Militarum, where they can, they were able to do the 5.5. Brood Brothers can be in 10 to 20 man squads, so like they actually have to put a real number there.
Oh, okay. I mean, they really don't. They could actually just make a model 5.5 points. They just won't because they're cowards. You heard me, GW. You're cowards. Just make them all 5.5 points. If someone submits a list that's 1,995.5 points, the world won't end. It'll be okay. That's a real number. It's less than 2,000.
Listen, they should redo their entire point scheme so that we build 40k pointless. Like,
it's so true because their issue is literally granularity. If you just made us count to 40,000, like it functions. So the only thing is that they do have to like pretend that people are handwriting lists because there is no functional list builder right now, quote unquote, because the other list builders are bad because it's not the official one. The official one's borked. But man, when the official one comes out, maybe they can make that change, and the seraphs will sing from on high, and everything will be okay.
The issue has always been granularity. Like the issue has always been there's only 2,000 points, so and you can't make a guardsman like 5 points and a cultist be 4 points because 3 points is too little, but 5 points is too much. And there's also like a whole boatload of issues when we can only do probabilities in like steps of 16%, which is one side of a 6-sided die. But that's like that's getting into like games design at that point, and well beyond the scope of this episode, or probably even this podcast.
All right.
I think that's it.
I think that's. Here's the issue: we're definitely forgetting factions, and like people are gonna be mad. Oh, did we talk about did AdMech get changes?
No, Astra Militarum.
Astra Militarum. I kind of hit on that. Guards went up half a point.
AdMech didn't get any real changes.
Up to a solid, still cheaper than cultists. Fuck you, GW. Like, god damn it.
I don't understand. Yeah, I think that's it.
Adeptus Sororitas seem to have gotten some minor changes.
Anything that matters?
No. Inquisition Assassin Sister Silence didn't change.
Nothing.
Knights!
Oh, my goodness. We almost forgot, like, one of the most important changes in the entire thing. Kevin and I have been talking about this list all week, and I can't believe we almost just signed off without talking about it. Kevin, what is the change for Knights?
Baby Knights! Baby Knights! Baby Knights!
Yeah, how many...
You, like, bring max size, like, 3-4 max size squads now, right?
They came down 20 points, is the change. Armature Warglaves came down, and Helverins came down 20 points, both for Chaos and Imperium. The Forge World version did not. The Forge World version is still at its old point cost, which was cheaper than the old point cost of Helverins, but now or of Warglaves. But Warglaves are now cheaper. They're 135 points for a Warglaive, which is insane because Warglaves are good. That's just a very good model. And Kevin and I are both just like, so you play 9, like it's unbelievable. We were messing around with like 9 Warglaive lists before when they came down, like I think it was like 5 points in chapter approved, and we were like, oh man, this is like probably really good. And we had like several lists that we were saying back and forth, and we are like, all right, it's like probably fine. Then they came down another 20 points, and now it's just insane. It's off the walls. Like we're playing like 9 Warglaives and a big knight and 2 more of the Forge World war dogs, or depending if we're Imperium or Chaos. Like you could, it's ridiculous. And now with the new change for vehicles, like you have to kill 8 of them to max out your secondary. It's really good. Like that list is just really, and it's unbelievably killy, and it fixes a lot of the you have OBSEC, which is like a little awkward, very awkward, but it fixes a lot of the issues that the knight lists were having, where they were just like, oh, you don't have enough bodies to do the secondaries. Well, you have enough bodies to do the secondaries now. You just run them all over the table. You're doing all the maneuver secondaries because you're on like 13 bodies. It's not the knight list that people want to play. People want to play with the big knights, and that's totally fair, and I get it. But the list is insane.
I don't know.
Ridiculous.
I don't, because you can still bring like 2 big. Actually, you can kind of even still bring like 3 big knights and like 5 little knights.
Yeah, as long as you're bringing like 5+ of the little ones and like really, really quote unquote abusing the change, like.
Right. I'm just saying, like, it actually kind of helps those lists too, where it's like. Before it was like you could bring 2 big knights and like 3 little knights.
Yeah, it's like 6 though. It's like 6 or 7. I have to do the exact math. You could bring so many,
right?
Depending on what your big knights are. If you're bringing dominance class, it's probably closer to 5 or 4. But
and I actually think this is a great change for. It's a really intelligent change on GW's part, because it's like knights needed some help holding objectives because it's so important in this edition, and they got it. They got it in the way that like the only way they could. By making their little things cheaper. That's why we have little knights.
Yep. Until we get a new knight book that reworks, how they function with the primary objective, which I fully expect to see an AOS type change where they count as some like baseline. They count as some number of models trying to hold objectives with OBSEC. Until we get that, this is what we're gonna have, and this is sweet. This is really sweet.
I like it,
man.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
What if knights had a rule where they were like, it's not that they get OBSEC, it's that OBSEC doesn't count around them, and then they count as 5 models apiece?
Yeah, like that's enough. Like that does it.
Because I think giving them OBSEC would be awkward in a way.
Yeah, giving them OBSEC, you're right. Giving them OBSEC is too much, but like, yeah, letting them ignore OBSEC is probably the way to go.
Yeah. but I like it. Yeah.
Man, I can't believe we almost forgot that.
Yeah, that's a pretty. Why didn't we lead with that?
Yeah, that change is huge. Because I was salty about Tau, and that's all that was bouncing around in my head, and I was just waiting for you to ask me that question. That's why we didn't lead with that.
These things happen.
Yeah.
So for next week's episode, Chris and I are now going to try to get those points, get a game in.
For real this time.
For real this time. We wanted a little bit of time to digest what was going on here and really think about so we would have a good battle report was what actually happened. So expect
So we're not doing Death Guard next week.
If Chris can find if there's there's going to be the Saturday Sunday previews, right, where the book kind of gets fully spoiled. So if you feel confident that you could play a list, I'll play it against you, Chris. But I have a feeling that's probably not the case because I think your one recommendation to me with Tabletop Simulator is play a faction you know how to play. And Death Guard would not be that if it's brand new.
Yeah. I
don't know, Chris. I think Saturday you and I can figure it out. I'll coach you.
It's the same as playing in real life. If you don't know the army, you're going to take forever to play.
I don't think it's the. It's not. I don't think it's the preview next week. I think you just can buy it. It's not the pre-order.
Yeah, it's on pre-order.
Yeah, I believe it goes to pre-order next week, which means that we'll get the full book spoiled on tomorrow. Saturday
Normally, right?
Yeah,
Saturday.
Oh, it's coming.
We'll see.
Right.
It'll be some flavor of Marine. It'll be White Scars or Death Guard.
I'm still on my plan for Tyranids.
Works for me.
And ladies and gentlemen in chat, I will do my very best to convince one of these two gentlemen to change their list to include at least 9 armigers.
Should we just bring back the soup list?
9 armigers.
All right. That's all I got.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this has been episode 27 of the 3D6 Charge podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to leave us a like, follow, subscribe, all of that stuff that people do for this kind of thing. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have that battle report ready for you and we'll actually do it this time. But until then, don't roll any ones.